We allow our elected representatives to own individual stocks, and we thereby allow them to use the private information they have to benefit themselves as well as others. It's a horrible decision, and I want to show you how it works in practice. So Senator Richard Burr of North Carolina dumped more than $1.6 million in stocks back in February 2020, a week before the entire market fell apart, dipping more than 30% in a matter of just weeks. After he did that, he called his brother-in-law, according to a new SEC filing. According to the SEC, he had material non-public information regarding the incoming economic impact of coronavirus. And it's not difficult to understand how he's going to these briefings. He's getting a better idea than we get to have early on of how bad things are going to be. And so after he sold $1.6 million in stock, he called his brother-in-law. They talked for 50 seconds, which sounds like the perfect phone call to me, and also the perfect amount of time to tell someone to panic, which the brother-in-law did. Gerald Fauth immediately called his broker 1 minute later. Actually, to be fair, he called his broker and his broker didn't answer, so he called a different broker and immediately began selling stock too. He sold between $97,000 and $280,000 worth of shares in 6 companies, including companies that were hit incredibly hard during the market turndown. Now, we had previously learned that Fauth dumped stock, according to ProPublica, who's doing great reporting on this, on the same day as Burr, but this is the first we knew that he did so immediately after talking to Burr on the phone. Now, granted, his corruption is more limited than Burr's because he's a bit more broke. He can only sell $250,000 apparently. Burr sold 1.6 million. And it was hilarious about it. The corruption is not just that he used the information he had to benefit himself. He wanted to make sure that the conditions were ripe for his stock to be sold at a high price, which is why he did things like on February 7th, he wrote an op-ed saying the United States today is better prepared than ever before to face emerging public health threats like the coronavirus. And as soon as he put down his pen, he began panicking because he didn't believe a damn thing about it. That same month, in fact, he went to a VIP group dinner at a social club and he gave them a preview of what the coronavirus would do. And he said it's gonna curtail business travel, cause schools to be closed, and result in the military mobilizing to compensate for overwhelmed hospitals. So Nina Turner, isn't it amazing what we let them do? They get secret information and they can personally benefit and then lie to us, even if it causes us financial harm, if that's what it takes to benefit them.
Yeah, it must be nice, all of that rare air that they're breathing up there. I mean, you don't have to be an economist. You don't even have to be a genius to see the breadcrumbs forming in this saga here that happens over and over and over again. This dude was so blatant with it. And you know why they so blatant with it? Because they know what we know, that in the end of the day, ain't jack gonna happen to these people. Nothing. Their constituents are not gonna be mad as hell about it. The rules are not gonna change. So they're just gonna skate by with people like you and me talking about the issue, great reporters reporting on it, and nothing of substance really happening to hold these people accountable. They should not be able, it's insider trading, just plain and simple.
Yeah, 100%, and we allow it.
Yeah, we do.
We allow them. And great job by ProPublica, as you said, yes. What's gonna happen? Well, they don't even need to pretend like this wasn't corrupt. Burr's spokesperson didn't respond to questions from ProPublica. Fauth's lawyer and the SEC didn't answer questions. Fauth actually hung up on a ProPublica reporter. So they seem pretty confident that they can just dodge this thing and they'll be perfectly fine, and why not? I mean, the worst thing that happened to, to Loeffler and who's the other Georgia senator? I'm blanking on his name right now, but both of them did the same thing with coronavirus stocks. Now, thankfully, they at least lost re-election, but they're not in jail right now for what they did. And this is not specific to just a few. Previous reporting they did in the Atlantic, the Atlantic reported on an analysis of over 60,000 stock trades made between 2004 and 2010. And what they found was politicians outperformed the market by 20%, with the portfolios of high-ranking Republicans beating the market by 35%. That is a massive, like you cannot stress how big of an advantage that has. And you can explain that in a couple different ways. It was Purdue, thank you. You can explain it in a couple different ways. Maybe they're just way smarter than us on average, but I don't know. I've listened to a lot of these politicians speak. That doesn't bear out. Or maybe they're regularly using the information they have to personally profit, passing legislation or not passing legislation to benefit or hurt certain industries that will benefit them. And we allow all of this, and I do not understand it. Why are people not more incensed about this?
I mean, people are going through so much, John, they can barely concentrate on their own pain. That really is what this comes down to. And then not having responsible folks who can do more than concentrate on pain because they're doing very well, to hold people like this accountable. The system does not hold them accountable. Their colleagues don't hold them accountable. And so we are going to have to elect more people. Again, it always comes back to elections. More people who are absolutely willing to put forth the rules to change the system so that we minimize behavior like this. That's what we need to do. But again, it's circular, it's all connected. You got to get people to vote. Well, no, people don't feel motivated, but I mean, you know where I'm going with this, and I think our viewers do too. I mean, it's frustrating as hell. I still say we don't give up on making sure that we get some reforms, even in our anger and distrust. That basically for now doesn't look like anything is going to change.
Yeah, and look, there have been times when corruption, concerns about corruption got people to vote. There was a couple midterms ago that was a big sort of rallying thing. The issue is that the corruption stories that the media seems to allow to really get out there and get talked about a lot are like Duke Cunningham. Or like, it's a bag of money being handed from under one stall from another. It's these very specific things that are outside of the bounds of what the politicians have allowed. And I want people to understand that something being legal doesn't make it not corrupt, doesn't make it ethical just because corrupt politicians said you can do it. And it's so much of what is perfectly legal to do that we need to change. And there are actually proposals on how we could do this. One option would be to require members of Congress, their household, and their staff to sell individual equities and instead to put their money in things like index funds and diversified mutual funds. The idea being they can still be invested in the growth of the American economy, but they shouldn't have a single stock that they can then look at decisions they make as a politician and say, how will this impact this particular stock? That seems like an absolute bare minimum, that at least. You could also have them put their holdings into a blind trust. I haven't had a lot of faith in that based on some of the blind trusts I've heard about from some politicians though. And then there's other things like divesting from your assets while you're in office. That would be a harder sell. I'm personally fine with politicians having no reason to believe they will ever become wealthy off of their public service. I don't think that that's too much to ask. And honestly, if it weeds out some people who are only getting in it to get rich, I think that would be kind of a nice little side effect there. But at the very least, make them invest in just mutual funds and things like that and not purchase individual stocks that they can then manipulate. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that certainly is a fair compromise here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we'll see. We're trying to push for it. Some politicians are. For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.